the Indiana Fever beat the Dallas Wings 102-83. This was a highly anticipated game because it was going to be the first time that Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers would be going up against one another in the WNBA.
For the past 5 years, basketball fans have witnessed one of the sport's most iconic rivalries take shape, Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers. Both were high school superstars, but they took very different routes. Clark landed at Iowa, while Bueckers committed to UConn. When they clashed in college, Clark had the upper hand, especially during March Madness. Even so, doubters like Gino Orima questioned whether Clark's game would carry over to the WNBA level. Well, last night, those two finally met on the pro stage, Indiana Fever versus Dallas Wings. And what went down wasn't just another matchup. It was Caitlin Clark doing something historic, something only she has managed to pull off not once, but twice. If you're hyped to find out what records she shattered, drop a CC record breaker in the comments. Let's dive in. Imagine this. Two teenage hoop prodigies lighting up courts all over the country, both clearly on a collision course from the start. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers first squared off back in high school, each ranked among the nation's top recruits, but with totally different styles and vibes. Clark was a walking highlight reel, explosive scorer, elite passer, and a deep-range shooter who could pull up from the logo. Bueckers, on the other hand, played with polished finesse, a deadly mid-range game, calm control, and basketball IQ that went toe-to-toe with Clark's.
Hey, Caitlin. You've known Paige since middle school, AAU. You guys were on the U19 World Cup team together. Is there anything that maybe stood out then about her, whether it be on or off the court, that maybe still reigns true today?
I mean, I feel like she's played in the same manner that she, has since she was, whether we were on the U16 team together, U19 team together, whether it was me watching her in AAU, she's always just been smooth. She takes what the game gives her. Her midi has always been as nice as it's been this year. She's just she just plays way older than she is. She's confident, she's smooth, she just does everything at a high level, can score from all three levels, and that's how she's always played, and that's obviously translated really well.
Their college journeys couldn't have been more different. Bueckers went with the powerhouse, UConn, under the legendary Gino Orima, a school with a stacked trophy case and championship pedigree. Clark, on the other hand, chose Iowa, a program with heart, but still looking for its moment in the spotlight. That choice set the stage for some unforgettable NCAA tournament showdowns that would shape their legacies. And when it came down to it, Clark's Hawkeyes ended up shattering UConn's hopes more than once. Clark showed up big in the biggest moments, including a jaw-dropping 41-point performance that sent the Huskies packing early. She outdueled Bueckers in 2 of their 3 head-to-head battles. Pretty soon, fans and analysts alike were picking sides, and this rivalry turned into something bigger than just basketball. It became legend.
And a lot of people are saying, oh, everything is she was Caitlin before Caitlin, she's better than Caitlin, all this stuff. That kind of stopped in the media. Caitlin Clark put up better numbers in the WNBA than Paige did in college.
And Diana said it best. This kid's in for a rude awakening. And they all jumped over her, but they didn't read the whole thing that she said. But nobody's printing. Diana Taurasi was right. This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league. And she's a rookie. And if you're a WNBA player, if you're any kind of player, you're going to say, I'm going to make a statement.
Gino Orima didn't shy away from critiquing Clark's game. He raised concerns about her shot selection and openly questioned whether she was truly ready for the WNBA, especially when compared to his own star, Bueckers. In Orima's eyes, Bueckers' solid fundamentals and polished style made her a better fit for the pro level. It really highlighted a contrast in basketball philosophies, Clark's high-octane, scoring-heavy approach versus Bueckers' calm, efficient execution. 2 different paths to greatness.
Talking to our player development coach yesterday, and he was just sent me a few things of even Steph going through a slump. I think he was 27 for his last 70 or something like that. The best in the world go through it, and I think that's where you can find your confidence. And I think the thing I always fall back on is like, I know how hard I've worked, so this isn't something that's going to last, and the best players in the world go through this. So I feel like I'm getting good shots, and I think that's why it's frustrating, because those are the shots that I make.
When both stars declared for the WNBA, fans were buzzing. Everyone wanted to know when we'd finally see Clark and Bueckers face off at the next level. Clark came in with the edge, having won 2 of their 3 college battles, but now the spotlight was brighter, and the questions about her transition to the pros were louder. The hype was real. ABC aired the game nationally, knowing the showdown would pull in fans coast to coast. And with Clark hitting some bumps early on with the fever, this matchup wasn't just a game. It felt like a moment that could reshape her narrative.
I feel like this stretch, this is a big game for us. I think we've struggled in the fact that we're able to play one good game, and then we play a bad game, then we play a good game, then we play a bad game. So I think for us is like, we got to find a way to be able to stack really good games together. And then we go on the road, and, we're on a back-to-back, which is just a challenge in itself. No matter who you're playing, we play Connecticut, then we play New York. So I think Steph's message was, yes, All-Stars coming up, that break's coming up, but our focus is on these 3 games that we have left. So in that sense, I do think it's critical that our focus just remains on the game in front of us. And I feel like that's what everybody in the locker room is doing.
But here's where things got really interesting. Heading into this high-stakes matchup, Clark's Fever were in rough shape. Indiana had just taken some tough and, honestly, pretty embarrassing losses to teams they were expected to beat. The LA Sparks and the Golden State Valkyries handed them back-to-back defeats that had fans scratching their heads. These weren't elite teams, they were games the Fever should have won without much trouble.
There is definitely something going on within the locker room, the front office. Something is off, man. This is the 3rd situation in one game we have had involving Caitlin Clark and the coaching staff and pretty much another player. And it looked like Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White definitely had a situation where they was in a heated exchange right before halftime.
Behind the scenes, there was a growing clash of philosophies between Caitlin Clark and head coach Stephanie White. Clark thrives in an up-tempo game. She wants to run the floor, push the pace, and create fast break chances. But White's approach is much more methodical, favoring a slower, half-court style of play. That difference in vision started creating serious tension within the team. Clark's strengths weren't being fully unlocked in White's system, and it all came to a head during the Atlanta Dream game. That's when the cameras caught a heated exchange between the 2 on the sidelines. You could see the frustration in both of them. It wasn't just a quick disagreement, it was a clear sign that something deeper was going on.
It can be frustrating when your shot isn't going in the way that you want it to, but then I look at the box and it's like, I'm really 4 shots away from having a really good game, a really good shooting game. So that's where you find your confidence, and I know those are shots that I can make, and I'm never going to stop shooting. So, until I break out of it, I'm just going to keep launching, and that's all I know, and I'm still confident in everything that I can do.
Lineup changes only made things messier. Clark was just coming back from injury and still trying to find her rhythm. Meanwhile, Dewana Bonner had returned from international duty, and that shift threw off whatever chemistry the Fever had built. The team struggled to lock in a steady rotation, and it showed. There was no real offensive flow. With key players constantly in and out, roles were unclear and the offense looked disjointed. It was tough to watch. Missed shots stacked up. Turnovers killed momentum. And that signature fast break magic Clark usually brings? Nowhere to be found. Even Clark acknowledged the inconsistency, saying, "We've had a hard time putting together back-to-back solid games. One good one, then one bad." Her own shooting slump became a growing concern, but she stayed mentally tough. "I'm never going to stop shooting," she said, even comparing her cold stretch to the occasional off nights Steph Curry has. The Fever finally snapped their skid with a win over Atlanta, but that didn't fix everything. Clark and Coach White still weren't seeing eye to eye. The tension didn't disappear, it was just paused.
Lee Rue the other night had a season-high 18 points. Here's Boston turning the corner. Dishing to Hull. Extra feed Clark. A deep 3. You bet! And he actually brought up stat from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through. She said that made her feel a lot better. That pass will as well. Right on the money to Mitchell.
Cunningham attacked the closeout.
Clark, the rejection of Quinterly. Clark, the flick ahead. Oh, beautifully done. Touchdown Fever.
The game against Dallas felt like the ultimate test. Would Coach White finally let Clark play her way? Or would the ongoing philosophical battle continue to hold the team back? That question hung over the matchup, and with Paige Bueckers on the opposing side, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Clark was eager to prove that her style could thrive in the pros. Then, something incredible happened. Stephanie White finally gave Clark the green light she'd been waiting for. Against Dallas, White made a game-changing call. She handed over control of the offense and let Clark dictate the tempo. This wasn't just a minor tweak. It was a full shift in strategy, a sign that White was ready to trust Clark and let her lead the team on her terms.
Here's Clark being hawked by Isaiah James. Clark sidestepping three is good. Clark backing down Quinterly. 6 to shoot, baiting away and dropping it in. Beautiful. Here's Clark off the screen, through the lane, feeds Howard. Another assist for Clark. That's 13 as Howard is up to 18 points.
Early on, it wasn't obvious if the new game plan was going to pay off. Both teams spent the first quarter feeling each other out. The Fever looked solid, not amazing, but definitely better than they had in recent games. They were starting to find a rhythm, slowly but surely. Clark was doing a great job getting her teammates involved, setting the tone, but the real fireworks? They hadn't started yet. The Wings were holding their own, and the game had that back and forth, anything can happen energy.
And he actually brought up stats from a shooting slump Steph Curry went through. She said that made her feel a lot better. That pass will as well, right on the money to Mitchell. A tenacious start from Caitlin Clark. Here's Wale off on a three. Long rebound. Mitchell, you're not going to catch her. Kelsey Mitchell in for two. They elevate each other because of how hard they compete. Nice look. Aaliyah Boston with a gorgeous dime to Kelsey Mitchell.
Then came the second quarter, and that's when everything exploded. Clark kicked things into high gear, pushing the pace like we've never seen before. She was launching full-court dimes, those signature touchdown passes fans love, and suddenly, the offense just clicked. The Fever dropped a jaw-dropping 36 points in that quarter alone. They outscored Dallas by 21 in just 10 minutes. This wasn't just solid basketball, it was art. Pure basketball poetry in motion.
Mitchell bounces, Boston, one more time. This time Mitchell delivering, and Boston up to 13 points. Indiana shooting 66%.
Clark's teammates absolutely fed off her energy, and the response was incredible. Kelsey Mitchell caught fire, dropping 20 points while shooting an impressive 8, 4, 12 from the field. That extended her streak of double-digit scoring games to 21. She was dialed in, hitting shots from all over the court, perfectly syncing with Clark's fast-paced rhythm. Natasha Howard was flying up and down the floor like a gazelle. She poured in 18 points on a ridiculous 8 of 9 shooting, finishing strong at the rim, and looking flat-out unstoppable in transition. And then there was Aaliyah Boston, owning the paint with her size, strength, and smarts. Every time Clark drew the defense, she found Boston wide open for easy finishes. The connection between those two was on point, flawless timing, perfect chemistry, and complete trust.
Cunningham the rebound. Cunningham swiftly up the floor, finds Howard for two. Sophie Cunningham making a huge impact off the bench, and Dallas will take a timeout.
In this lineup, Natasha Howard is the quickest post player.
Here's what took this performance to another level. The Fever dropped a franchise record 64 points in the first half. It was, hands down, the most beautiful basketball they'd played all season. That mark broke their previous record of 63 points set way back in 2016 against the New York Liberty. But it wasn't just a franchise milestone. Those 64 points were also the highest scoring half by any team in the WNBA during the entire 2025 season. The Fever also dished out 30 assists, tying a franchise record, and 13 of those came from Clark. That stat alone showed just how much she elevates everyone around her when she's given the reins. She wasn't just racking up points, she was making her entire team better. The ball movement was crisp. Every pass had intent. Every possession felt like a threat. Off the bench, Sophie Cunningham brought the perfect spark. She added 13 points, including a strong driving layup that pushed her past 1,500 career points. Her energy and knockdown shooting gave Indiana yet another weapon, and Dallas had no answer for it.
Good dub. 2 in a row. 2 more to All-Star. Let's go. Woo!
W. I'll keep your down so you already know what's coming. Bow, bow, bow! On to the next. Hell yeah! Can you use that one? Let's go, baby. Give your girls either Christmas. W. Now we gotta go get another one.
That second quarter? It was historic on its own. The Fever's 36-point outburst tied for the third most points ever scored in a single quarter in franchise history. Even crazier, they shot a scorching 76.2% from the field during that stretch. They went on a jaw-dropping 33-9 run that lasted nearly 8 minutes. Dallas had no answers. The Wings looked gassed, out of sync, and completely overwhelmed. They simply couldn't keep up with Indiana's relentless pace and energy. This wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Clark's vision for fast-paced, high-tempo basketball was clicking on all cylinders, and it worked at the pro level. Stephanie White had finally let Clark off the leash, and what followed was nothing short of historic.